G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and this video is one in which we're going to be talking about branding and perpetuating your own logo or image or style or product or service in a way that captures people's attention and loyalty. But first things first, to start off, we're going to go back in time and give things a little bit of a historical context. Brand comes from a Norse word meaning to burn. I knew that thanks to Wikipedia. Now, a very, very long time ago, people would brand their cattle, unfortunately, their slaves, their timber and their crockery and things like that as a mark of ownership. Over a long period of time, the mentality of branding grew from an attitude of this belongs to me, so leave it alone, into this is a product of mine, why don't you buy it? So over time, we see things like leatherwork and cabinets and soaps and all different products have brands and trademarks applied to them to perpetuate their own product and image. Now, applying this knowledge, place yourself in a medieval marketplace surrounded by sounds and bustles of people selling their wares. A marketplace bustling and busy with winemakers and bakers, blacksmiths and farmers and herders. Now, going forward thousands of years to the marketplace of today, what would it look like if we all were in that marketplace atmosphere? Well, it would be huge. It would be millions and millions of times bigger, and you would just be crammed shoulder to shoulder with no space to move. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people all shouting for your attention. This is what we call an oversaturated marketplace. Everyone has something to sell. Anyone who has ever made a YouTube channel and uploaded a video ever, anyone who started a fan club or a small business, anyone who's ever tried to sell any products or services, which is pretty much all of us, is in that marketplace shouting for attention, and it's just so crowded and so noisy that no one can be heard. So this is where we are. This is the environment in which you and I are forced to sell our product and gain attention. Now, in an oversaturated and crowded and noisy marketplace like this that we're all in today, branding can be one of the key things to help make you stand out from the crowd. And this is what we're going to talk about today, how any single person who applies and uses some of these strategies that I'm going to talk about today can effectively stand out and sell themselves in a way that a lot of people can't or don't do. So I'm going to break this down into 3 sections. The first is to create your brand. The second is to apply your brand. And the third is to expose your brand. Now, feel free to skip ahead to these sections anytime during the video, but we're going to talk about them one by one and define exactly what I'm talking about and how you can apply it to your own situation. First, we're going to talk about creating your brand. Now, when people think about branding, often the first thing that comes to mind is a logo or a mascot, a character, a title, and that's for a reason. That's what I would classify as your primary form of branding. It's the first thing we see. We see the big golden arches and we know that we see a McDonald's. As soon as we see that shell shape, we know we're looking at a gas station of some sort. So a few of the key things to keep in mind when creating your visual brand, whether it be a character, mascot, or a logo or something like that, you really want it to be simple. Use things like silhouette and simple use of color, whether it be complementary or contrasting, to create an icon or image that once it's seen more than once, they instantly recognize where they've seen it before. You want it to be recognizable and you want it to be individual. Now, if there's the primary form of branding, this logo or image or title or character, what's the secondary form of branding? There are so many things that are incorporated in the branding of a product or a company. Things from colors to sound, all the way to catchphrases and smells and tastes. Now, to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I'm going to put a few slides on the screen and we're going to go one by one and quickly identify what they are. Ready, go. Any guesses? Nike, pretty quick, right? Because we have a simple use of black and white color and that slogan that we identify with that brand. We haven't even seen the tick yet. How about this one? That was easy, too easy. McDonald's, hello. What about, there you go, Subway. Let's go for one more. How about this one? There you go. These organizations spend millions of dollars every year to make sure that every time you hear a phrase like that or see colors like that, you think of them and their product. Now, while we may not have millions of dollars a year, we can do things like this in our own small way to have people associate or recognize our thing. So for example, in my own little YouTube community, every video I begin with, "G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza, I'm Jazza." "G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza, I'm Jazza." "G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza, I'm Jazza." It's a thing I repeat every single video, and it's consistent, and it was almost accidental when I started doing it, and yet it's turned out to be very effective and very recognizable. The very last thing I want to touch on in terms of creating your brand is the fact that your product is your brand as well. So as much effort as you might put on your logo or a catchphrase, at the end of the day, they are to associate people's thinking with the product, with your services. So if your product or services aren't up to par, even though you have a fancy logo, it's going to count for nothing. You want to make sure that they're complementary. Now, apply your brand. We have our branding, we have our image and our logo and our catchphrase and our colors and our product. What do? We put it everywhere. Now, I don't mean oversaturate, I don't mean overwhelm people with this brand, but we just want to make sure that they see it in an unintrusive way, but consistently. We're talking about things like headers of websites and Facebook page, profile pictures, and then of course incorporating it into your content or product. So for example, if you sell little items, make sure that you have your mark, your logo somewhere on the item. If you create videos or games, make sure you have your brand, your logo, and intro something somewhere, not intrusively. Don't force them to watch it forever, but just make sure that it's present so you've made your mark. This consistent branding or burning of this image into all your products and services makes sure that the people associate and remember and recall this thing through that repetition. Now remember, of course, with all of this in mind, you want to be consistent. You don't want to catch people off guard and surprise them with your branding. You want to be in a place that they will learn to expect it to be and kind of just recognize where it is and associate that with your brand. So for example, if you create games or movies, just have a very short intro at the beginning or end, something like that. Even if it's an unintrusive watermark through the course of the video, just so that you're present but not overwhelming. You don't want people to negatively associate your brand with frustration. Now, the third and final aspect of your branding we're going to talk about is exposing your brand. I want you to take yourself back to the analogy of the marketplace we were in before, surrounded by millions of people, crowded in, no room to breathe, with so many people selling themselves, but you have something different, you have your logo, you have a great product, and you have branding. What are you going to then do to use that and stand out? First and foremost, you want to have appropriate placement. That means you need to be selling your product and service in the realm of which those products and services are being sold. Yes, you'll be placed around the direct competition, but the customers are going to be in that area. So in this marketplace, after all your fighting and pushing, you eventually get to the right place in this marketplace, but you're very little and you're amongst the crowd, and there are some people who actually already have established brands. Now, this brings me to the next part of our analogy, which is collaboration. There are other people and businesses that have already been doing what you're doing better than you are and longer than you have. That's okay, because we can all bring something different to the marketplace. Through collaboration with already established businesses and profiles and personalities, we can build up our own customer base. There are a lot of customers and people who trust these established things and don't actually know who you are. But if you work with these people that they trust, all of a sudden they trust you. So again, from my own personal experience, I've created games and collaborated with studios where we end up sharing the same audience, and I've done collaborations with lots of other YouTube channels and intend to do much more in the future. And in that sense, we get to share the same base of users who trust us and kind of build each other up. It's a very useful thing. Okay, so now let's go back to our analogy. We've used one of these established people to take their hand and stand up on their own soapbox, and all of a sudden some people are looking at us, and we've got our own little base of users who are interested and have begun to trust us. Now, what can we do? If we wanted to, we could advertise our own services or product. So for example, you know that you will get the attention of a lot more people if you had a megaphone. The problem is a megaphone costs money. You're gonna have to pay for that form of advertisement, but that's okay. It can be quite effective. I believe that advertisement is great but it's only really useful and effective if you have a polished and complete and desirable product or service. So there's no real point paying for advertisement unless you really have something finished and polished for people to come and share and look at. So now you've got your own little soapbox that you're standing on, you've got your megaphone, your audience is flocking to you. The very last, most important and final thing I want to reiterate is the quality of your product or service. A brand and a logo and consistency and advertisement will get lots of people to remember your product, but the quality of the product will dictate what people remember you for. We can all think of 1,000 examples of products and services and organizations that have been remembered by you and lots of other people for all the wrong reasons. So that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of our video on branding. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you got something out of it that's somewhat useful to you. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below and I'll do my best to reply. And until next time, thank you for joining me and I will see you later.